I'm gonna put this thing in.
Is there any way we can switch this chair over to there and then grab that other blue chair and put it there? Just because I want to move it. Otherwise, I think my voice is blocked by the computer, and people criticize our YouTube for not being as easy to hear.
That'll be a negative day.
I've been taking so many different routes to work. I'm late every day, and I'm only up at Hudson Valley.
And everybody wonders why I just drive 7.
So any signs you guys put up?
I can't. I hit the Hudson Valley traffic. It's ridiculous.
Good morning, everybody. We're
next
going to start
weekend.
the finance committee because I know everybody's on a tight time frame today. I will say the first packet you received. So I am going to call the meeting to order. It is 8:33. Brad, will you do roll call for me for the finance committee?
Yeah, this is Monica Krajewski, Jamie Mager here, and Bryce Hanna.
All right, everybody's here. Great. Do we have a motion to approve the meetings of our September 15th board meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
I don't have the Ferris wheel.
I'm now going to, as everybody knows, our budget process entails that we need to approve a budget. We have a expanded budget, and then we also have a Paris report budget, which is a 5-year lookout that Brad will need to submit with the Paris reports before the end of this month. That's why it's imperative that we do this work now. So we will approve the expanded budget as well as the Paris report budget. Okay. Yes, I know that's what I do at my work right now. So we'll be going through both. The Paris report budget is just essentially a summary of the expanded budget. So it is, it has very different accounting lines. So Brad and his team and the accountants have to kind of consolidate our account lines to match the Paris reports. But that's why the different formats are there, is because that's the way the state wants us to report. So I'm going to turn it over to Brad so he can present the budget for us. And then after that, we will make a motion to approve it.
To recommend it to the full board.
And recommend it to the full board.
Okay. All right, so there's a lot of paper today because I'm trying to give you as much information as possible. The first budget is a typical one that says unapproved at the top like this. This is what QuickBooks would generate with the line items. And just real quickly, so everybody follows along, if you look at the bottom, it says net change in cash, 866,647. That would be reflected on this Paris report here, just so you see that you're looking at the same thing. The Paris report in next year's 2026, 866,647.94. So that's just to show you that these numbers look entirely different, but actually sum into the same Paris report format. So just a little introduction about the way it works. The Paris report actually wants us to account for our capital asset outlays, whereas our income statement with the land bank, and I've said this a bunch of times, we see the revenue through grant. So it shows that we're making a bunch of money, and then we move that revenue not into cash, but we spend the cash to fix buildings, and it makes our buildings worth more. So then we actually have capital assets, and that's what they mean by capital outlays. So the Paris report wants to know when you spend the money on capital outlays, but in our typical budget, you just have your expenditures and your revenues. But a building upgrade is not an expendable item, it's a capitalized item. And so because of that, it becomes worth something that you later sell, and then we'll write off in what's called our total cost of goods sold. And that's going to be the cost of the buildings that we sold, that we invested in them. So that's just the background. So it might show on paper that we make money, but it's really just that we fixed a lot of properties. The cash flow part of this organization is going to be when you sell buildings or get developer fees. Or get donations. People can donate money if they want. That'd be great. So I'm going to go line by line, and of course, stop me if anybody has a question, because I have. I can go quickly, I can go slowly, but I think we got a lot to do. So we have a little bit to do between two meetings, but Jamie's got to go. So anyway, if you look, I'm going to go off this budget right here. The unapproved because it's a typical budget. And of course, we can go over any questions at the parish report later. But from the top of that, we don't have any state grants in the line item 40,000. And in 40,020 in the past, we've got attorney general grants, and that was largely due to the financial crisis. There was a settlement. The attorney general gave money to land banks. Land banks were set up to accept that money and use it to invest in vacant buildings in the cities. The attorney general hasn't allowed for any of those grants yet or given them out. So that's zero. There are no more ARPA funds, so that's zero as well. And then we move on to some of these LBI grants. The LBI Phase 1 grant, we've already gotten the $200,000 operational grant. I've got listed here as LBI Phase 2, but they're calling it Property Services Grant. You guys were BCC'd in my application for that grant, the $1.925 million. If you want to see it, it says the grant outlined is behind the parish report in a stapled thing for what I applied for, but namely to fix 3 buildings, 32 Glen Avenue, 332 9th Street, and 836 River Street were the 3 buildings I applied for. And I also applied for a subrecipient grant program where we do some basic staples like roofs, chimneys, boilers, furnaces for people that have low AMI that, might stabilize the housing so that their property doesn't go in disrepair. A lot like the facade grant, only, less outwardly shining and more bones of a building. Now we can move on to the cross mod grant. This is a potential program. I mean, I've gotten positive feedback from the administration. I got an email this week looking for a couple questions. So it's largely contingent on whether or not the administration wants to move forward. If city council and the mayor's office don't push this resolution forward and sell us the buildings to do the program, it's just not happening, which is okay. But I anticipate it's going to happen because I've had some positive meetings. The cross mod grant to $3 million would be the construction cost that they would give us as a line of credit. We would then be able to pay the line of, it's a forgivable line of credit, but it's a line of credit nonetheless. So we have to recognize the revenue and then recognize the expense, which we'll talk about later. And at the end of the day, that would be a wash, and the state would keep all the sales money, but we would get to keep a developer fee, which is right below that of 6%. So if we do that program, the land bank's set to make $180,000.
Is the $180,000 inclusive of the 3 million or separate? So 3.18.
Yes. Yep.
Right. Okay.
So the $3 million is just a rough estimate. It costs about $300,000 to make these buildings and get them, like the grading, the electric hooked up. And so that's going to be written off as cost of sales down below. Yep. And so it's just a plus and a minus.
Okay.
If it doesn't happen, we just lose $180,000 from our overall goal from the budget. But if it does happen, we have to recognize both the revenue and the expense. So of course, cross mod developer fee, $180,000. Then we have property sale income. Showing 3 buildings. If we can get the grants that I want to get, then we would sell 32 Glen and 332 9th Street after they're fixed. We already have 33406 Ave in the works. I just don't anticipate us closing between now and the end of the year because we haven't finished the building, so it's not listed on the MLS. You guys haven't approved anybody, so I assume that's going to happen next year. Then we move on to 44,000 rental income. I actually, from our finance committee meeting, I moved this to 11 months of rent from 5 units at $1,500 a unit, just because I anticipate it's going to take some time to get our policies together. And I think you were leading me that way, Monica. I can move it back, but I just think it's safer to be conservative. If we have stuff onboarded, 834 River Street, they're putting in a hardwood floor this week. So, they might actually be done and those units available for January, but figure February 1st is a safe way to do the budgeting. That way we don't get surprised. So our total income is $6.137 million. It's pretty large. I think it's, maybe double what the land bank's done in the past. I'm not sure, but it's a pretty large revenue. And cost of sales would be $4,050,000, which is That $3 million from the cross mod grant, plus the cost of the 3 buildings that we're talking about selling, 33406 Ave, 32 Glen Avenue, and 332 9th Street. Those buildings, once they sold, will recognize the expenses we have to stabilize and fix them up. So our total, it's cost of sales, and then you also, that totals to cost of goods sold total, because you might have sales expenses or environmental remediation or construction or that sort of stuff. Now, I just said sales expense, and I'm pretty sure that we have the under closing costs 78,801. That's where we have the budgeted for the realtor fees. Just making sure that that doesn't throw anybody off in that moment. So gross profit of $2 million. Property maintenance is budgeted $34,600, and of course the support to that is in printout behind the parish report for what we plan for the property maintenance. The subrecipient grants is contingent on the award there of $500,000 that I told you about, the 1.925 million for the property services LBI 2 grant. Property utilities, we're going to have to pay for a dumpster and National Grid for 871 River Street when we move our offices over there. So we budgeted $6,000 for that. Or excuse me, that's just utilities for 871. The sanitation would be the dumpster for 871 River Street, which allows contractors to pick up debris that somebody might dump on our vacant properties. We can just throw it in our own dumpster and let the hauler take it away, which is kind of nice. So
Utilities includes all of the electric, gas, and water.
yeah. Yeah. So moving on, we have depreciation, which is a standard item that we've had at $1,933.20 for a long time now. And largely that's just depreciating tablets that we bought during the COVID era.
That'll increase for next year once we have property.
Yes. So, yep, of course. And dues and subscription, we pay $2,000 a year to the New York State Land Bank Association to be part of that organization. Our insurance expense, moving on to $69,000. It was around $60,000 this year. And again, I put the support to the actually past year stuff in this little packet full of information. That's our like size 2 font item. That's all the last couple of years, just in case anybody didn't see it. It was in the Excel document that I sent out a couple of weeks ago, but it's page 2 after the parish report. It'll show you last year's insurance expense. I've got it from, I think, 60 to 75, just so that we're safe and we end up covering in case of larger increases. I'm not sure how much more it will increase, but we're going to have a couple buildings that are gonna be worth a lot more than, vacant building style stuff. So
Brad, can I stop you for 1 second? Because there's a lot of new people in the land bank world.
Yep.
So land bank insurance there's not a lot of carriers that will do that because it's vacant property generally, right? And so the field is very small when you work with brokers to try to get agents or get companies to cover it. But then they actually do it building by building. So literally when I approve the insurance payment, it is literally an invoice building by building. It's not like we have an umbrella, but it's not like an overarching liability policy. It's actually per building.
That's the hazard part of it.
Yeah, so-
That's about 15,000 a year.
Right. So the coverage for the buildings is a very different type of policy than a traditional insurance policy would be.
Yeah.
And it's a very narrow field as to who will actually offer land bank insurance.
Yeah, vacant buildings have a higher risk of people getting hurt. If anybody goes inside, they might fall through the floorboards more likely than a fixed building.
Right. It's always been a really high expense.
Yeah.
And it's just due to the nature of the work that we do.
And
Plus scaffold law.
yeah, and then on top of that, like just to have the land, if we have no properties and we have a land bank, it's like 50,000 right off the rip. There's no way around that part, just existing. So by the city having one, we have to budget that in. Nice thing about that is it is reimbursable on our grant with the state for that LBI 1 operating grant. But I think we have a couple more we have more expenses than we have grant money to reimburse for the LBI, because you could also do property maintenance, attorney fees, salaries for managerial staff and that sort of stuff. So then we have the internet. We're going to have Spectrum Internet at 871 River Street. So that would be budgeted at $960 for the year. Office expenses, the total I'm assuming is $13,420, where we still have a rent agreement that we have to live out at 415 River Street. So that's $4,920. But there's also other expenses, like we're going to have to get a conference room table. As you can tell, even this one, we're bursting the seams. Everybody's sharing space, so we're going to need probably a couple more feet, which I think that A71 will allow for that in the conference area, but we have to buy that. So I'm budgeting $5,000 for that. Of course, we'll carry over some of our furniture from 415 River Street, and so that will be where that comes from. Certain office supplies, obviously, everybody has printed off sheets from our printer, from the ink I seem to buy monthly, and so that's what the $1,500 usually is for there. And the same with the 2,000. I'm just not sure why in the months past sometimes it's used the $74,000 item office expense, which is general office expenses, versus 74,100. And I think probably there's more general things that go into office expense that that our bookkeepers put in there. So I just kept that line item consistent so that we didn't end up being surprised if there's something that could be surprising there. Payroll expenses, 76,000, are a ratio of salaries, and so I just extrapolated the ratio and then applied it to the salary number I'm proposing in this budget. Postage, honestly, after talking with Monica and Brian and Amy in the budget, I said, geez, I put it there as 1,000, but it really shouldn't be 1,000. Like, we had like under $300 last year, and I'm not sure my logic in putting in 1,000, but it was put in, so it's there. We have an accountant, capital bookkeeping cooperative. I think that's what they're CBC as well as, but I'm blanking on what their name is. But we paid them $9,700 to do our books and provide us the report that we're going to go over in a regular meeting. We have engineering that I need to get design work done for the 3 buildings that we plan to fix next year. We have an attorney, and we're just expecting it to increase a little bit. As we do more work, if we do the cross mod, we're going to have to do some lot line changes to certain things and get sites developed for the cross mod program. And so I expect an increase. It's about $45,000 last year. So going up a little bit there. The audit we did an RFP, and that number was their 3-year number. Last year's 12,000, this year's 12,500, next year's 13,000. And we have a website, Tangent Media, I think his name is, and we paid him a large sum this month or this year to onboard our new website, but he just has a monthly maintenance fee there. And then of course marketing is sort of the idea that we're paying for graphic designers to do different work for us instead of hiring in staff items, help us with the annual report, help us put together. We had one item was graphics for when we do posts on Facebook. If you have a graphic attached to it, it's more likely to go to people's page. If you just type out the words, it'll get buried. The algorithm doesn't like it. So this year she made some graphics. So I can add an RFP notice graphic to go with the RFP link, and then it might show up and people might share it, and it'll be nice. So she's done things like take the picture of our building and put sold in front of it, and those sort of things. It's nice to have when you can send it out. So for $5,000 for that item. We pay paychecks for payroll processing. We have $5,000 for administration, which is largely RFP support or support from consultants to help us with items. For instance, we had me and Paul on a job site. Paul was logging people in, and then he wasn't able to be inside with contractors. So the contractors themselves needed somebody to give them a tour, and then I was giving the tour, but then Paul's managing the project, so I'm the one giving them instructions inside. And so then at the same time, I have some knowledge of how the grant was written and everything. So we were able to get somebody last year to come in and support us by checking in our contractors and our RFP walkthroughs and making sure that everybody's email is correct and getting it typed in.
It can be tough to manage when you have 12 contractors show up to go look at a project at once. So it's very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Closing costs are the sales fees for real estate agents to sell and market the building. And that's also, I think there's a note that there's a property services part of this stapled binder with the Paris budget on it that you can go ahead and look at the percentages and why I came up with that number. So the total professional services is a sum. Paul and I are proposing salary increases this year, and that's largely based on well, I'll start with myself. It's largely based on when I first was interviewed for the job. I was expecting more and I took less in order to try to help. And so now this is roughly, we're part-time, but this is half of what other, I say, public authorities or land banks are getting. We get no benefits. And so that's where my support of the request comes from. I think Paul is looking for, with the level of work we're doing, there's other land banks have roles such as like director of operations and that sort of thing instead of just project manager, because you're juggling about 13 projects from the facade and the 3 we're working on. So
right now,
14 projects, I think, right now all at once.
Yeah.
So it's not really just one project that you're managing. It should be projects manager, or in the case of Albany County Land Bank, they have a role called director of operations, and that we're suggesting that's more appropriate if we're going to be doing larger scale things, such as potentially 10 cross mod programs and 3 vacant building rehabs. So
just for a process point on this, just because it's in the budget, we would necessarily have to do like a review and then suggest an increase for both positions. Just because it's in the budget just means that we've budgeted this amount of money towards salaries, not that we're approving that increase. Just for clarity.
So we could come under budget if we don't increase it. The telephone is our grasshopper. We have it's an online service that directs the phone calls directly to me and Paul's cell phones, and then we just pay yearly for that. Travel line is $5,000 because there's 2 land bank conferences. One's in Detroit, we're not sure yet, but I'm part of the conference committee, so we're trying to find a location as a land bank near a place that maybe we can tour a modular home, or maybe do it at the same time the New York Council of Mayors. So yeah, so there's a couple, there's a couple places that we're looking at, but that conference isn't as expensive as potentially just flying out to Detroit. But Detroit National Land Bank Conference can definitely get the wheels grinding what land banks can do from a national, not necessarily a state level organization.
I've been at it's a great conference.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's asking, "Oh, you going to Detroit?" And I was like,
you can glean a lot of information off of it.
I didn't really consider it, but so our total expenses $974,785, and then our net operating income will be 1.1 million and change. We have investment interest because we have a money market account of $7,000, and so the total net income is 1.119 million, or net change in cash 866,000, because like I said, our assets will go up by fixing, say, 836 River Street. That asset will go up, but the income from the sales of the other 3 buildings that we would fix and sell would create some cash as well. So it's $1 million income there. And then the rest of these things are just my checks and balances to make sure that our parish report's correct.
So just for purposes of if something happened and we did not receive the grants and or the property sale income.
Yeah, I have a sheet of paper for that.
Yeah, so that would be, we would lose the $180,000 developer fee as well as the $750,000.
Yep, it's the 3rd page from the parish report packet. There's a chart there which shows sort of how I got to the net change in cash, which actually is the line item that I need to match on the parish report budget. So the cash flow revenues, the actual things that happen in cash for us, the sale of the 3 buildings, the rent of the 5 units, the LBI 1 grant, which gives us money, the cross-mod developer fee, the interest income. Just to be real clear, the program delivery for like LBI Property Services would equate to, if we were awarded the whole amount, $90,000. And that would go against salaries of our staff that are working on that sort of stuff. So if we do not have those expenses, we just end up forfeiting the money. That's key to note there. The total being $1.309 million. So you have some cash flow expenses that are, reimbursable, but obviously not 200,000. It's 442,000, which ends up with the difference of 866, which is what we saw on the front page. And another way to approach it is the two programs that are in potential right now, as it stands. If they don't happen, we end up, say the cross mod doesn't work out, we lose $180,000, or we don't get the property services amount, then we would lose the $590,000, which is the program delivery plus the difference in our cost of sales versus our what we could, the 500,000 we could sell the buildings for, 250 each for two families. So 250 and 90,000. That's a $770,000 swing between the two programs. We still would end up with a net income of just under $100,000, 96,000.
Which I think is really important, because if something does happen to those two grants, that we are able to still sustain operations and have a positive cash flow, which is really important.
Right. And I should add, we are not suggesting that we're going to hire an outside firm to manage our rentals. We'll hire outside contractors to work on the rentals when they're being fixed. We're not going to go unclog sinks if they get clogged, but we aren't going to have a third party vendor come in. I mean, some of them want to charge, I think it's 15% a month plus 1 month to find the tenant for you. So again, we're taking on that burden inside the office with our hours that we're working.
Can I just ask, how many rentals are there?
We have no rentals right now.
No, how many are you looking?
Five.
Five?
Yep. 834 River
Five
Street.
at an average of 1,500 a month.
Okay.
834 River Street's a 3-family. And the theory behind this, just to catch you up, is the land bank has set itself up to be like trying to sell buildings to owner occupied. And a 3-family building that's completely finished doesn't lend itself to be like an owner occupied. It lends itself to be a investor. And so why not sustain our organization by being the investor? In that same way, we're going to fix 836 River Street. And once that's fixed, then we'll have 6 units next to 871. And then 871 has 2 units naturally, because there's a 1-family in the back, a 1-bedroom in the back and a 2-bedroom upstairs. So you have 834, 871 are going to be 5. And then when we fix 836, we'll have 8.
We'll have 8, okay.
And you'll see that in the parish report, and next year's rental income's up to 144,000 or something like that.
And you're just saying at 1,500 each?
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously a 1-bedroom's different than a 2-bedroom. We don't
All right.
exactly know what's going to happen, but even if we didn't rent them at all,
Based on market rents,
Yeah.
an average should be about
Yeah.
right at 1,500.
Thanks.
Brett, too, that property management fee is kind of high.
okay,
Yeah.
It should be like 10%, 9 or 10%.
we're not going to hire
Yeah,
one. So
15% is like, I'll go do it, 15%.
Yeah.
I think you guys have a conflict of interest.
I think it's also important to note that now that we got the organization back up and going, and we're doing really good work, and there's really good programs, and Brad and Cole have gotten a really good relationship with the state and the grant award, the grant organizations and agencies. I think it's also important that we start looking at strategy going outward, right? Like, how do we, and we've had these conversations, and I'm saying this more so for Kim, who's moved to the table for right now, is now how do we go backwards to like where we were 10 years ago and form some strategy with the city and start looking at, these nodules of where this comprehensive plan plays into the whole vision. But I think it's also important to note that we don't necessarily want to become a rental agency. Like we already have those in the city, right? There's already those kinds of organizations in the city. And I think that that's not the purpose of what we're doing, even though we are looking at 8 potentially in the next year or so. It's not going to be our primary business. The business is still to get houses into people's hands for occupancy, homeowner occupancy preferred, and to be able to work within those need demographics to be able to rebuild these neighborhoods.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that that's
Mhm.
very stated, because
Yeah.
I don't want people to think we're gonna turn into a rental agency, because that's not the mission.
It's not my vision either, but if you can see on this page that I brought you guys to, that just our our some of our expenses when you get into attorney fees or insurance or that sort of stuff, we only have a $200,000 operating grant. So you have property maintenance, you have the office expenses, website, sanitation, all those things, when you add them all together, are more than 200,000. And so how do you sustain the organization? You either need to get more operating money from the state or do something gritty, like we're not the only land bank looking at it this way. There's Syracuse has held over tenants when they foreclosed on people, but also I forget, it's down near, I don't want to say Essex, I think it's down near Binghamton. There's a land bank who's in conjunction with us developing policies, but they haven't created them yet. And they're doing the same thing. They're trying to find other revenue sources to sustain operations, because some of the state funding isn't high enough to sustain from the operation standpoint.
And what you'll see when you look at other states is that a lot of states actually legislate at the state level, operating and maintenance income. So portions of the mortgage recording tax or pieces like that, like Ohio is a really giant in it. Michigan is by far probably the most experienced in land banks, Pennsylvania. And so they all, in addition to grant income, for capital projects, they also award land banks the actual maintenance income as well too. New York State has not gotten to that point, other than through their grant proceeds, but it's not a residual stream of funding.
So is it fair to say that we are in a small group of land banks that are actually going down the road of being the investor, the landlord?
Yeah.
If that's the case, it's not a bad thing to be a trailblazer sometimes. But I guess the question I have is, do we have, if an emergency break glass here kind of policy, where all of a sudden it says, yeah, this is we had a vision, it's not aligned with the vision now, the vision of, hey, we hope that it goes this way and starts to produce that kind of income. But at a certain point, do we have this line in the sand that says, yeah, it's not working the way we wanted, and this would be the way out?
Yeah, so from a board perspective, you guys would have the asset of a completely renovated building that people are living in that you could market for sale. And obviously, Paul and I can't do any deciding sales or not sales. If you guys feel as though the rentals have become too much of a headache, or it's not working out, you guys could make a motion and draft or I could draft a resolution, or Michelle can draft a resolution to list something for sale, and then and then sell it. And of course, it's going to be worth pretty good money, $300,000-$400,000 for some of these buildings. We sold 791 for 400,000. So if you have a 3-family that's completely renovated, it might be worth a little bit more, because the ground floor at 791 was a commercial vacant waiting for renovation.
Does anybody have any other questions on the budget?
I have a minor question about it almost seems not worth bringing up, but the phones. So the phone service we use, you said refers to your phones. Those are your personal phones, and you don't mind using them for land bank business. We struggle with this in my job too. Like everyone uses their phone. Like, this is not
land bank. It comes up Troy Community Land Bank. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and we answer the phones between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday
the
through
two phone.
Friday.
I mean, the 2 phone thing is crazy too. So I just was checking in on it. I'm like, I didn't realize that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
We
he's
get
sitting here with 2 phones.
We get the anti benefits. We also have to drive our own personal vehicles. Like when 871 needed a tub,
Oh right,
I had to go to Home Depot myself and pick it up with my truck.
Yeah.
And so you don't see an expense back to me.
And here's the
truck
rabbit hole.
expenses.
We don't pay for gas. We don't pay
Is
for
there an
mileage.
issue with
We don't
insurance
pay-
on that kind of stuff?
Actually, we have
Lean and
It doesn't
mean.
have like
hired and
umbrella.
non-hired autos. So you have auto insurance from the land bank as part of your drive. It's required by our grant for New York State LBI operating funds.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I don't want to go on to all the
We're
details.
not quite ready to buy a vehicle yet.
Yeah. Well, no.
Let's get a
I mean,
driveway.
there's exposure there. Is all I was thinking. Like whenever your personal
Yeah.
property gets involved in the
I'm
work.
just saying that, it's just part of our package. It's the opposite. We don't get health insurance. We don't get,
Right. Oh yeah, sure.
we're not part of the state retirement system. So it's, completely, we're white knuckling and gritting it and trying to get things done.
So related to that, so this budget and this projected workload for the next year is quite a bit more, right? And is that you still think would be, all things being equal, manageable?
Yeah.
Or I mean, I don't, especially with the cross mod, that could be
It'd be a lot of fun.
This year alone,
That's one thing it could be.
this year alone, we will have completed close to 20 projects
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
in this year.
That's
you
a
have
lot.
all
Yeah.
of my
That's a
respect
lot.
for
Yeah, I
everything
mean,
you've
you've got
accomplished.
13 from facade, then the other properties we've done, the
Mhm.
other ones we put roofs on and other things,
Mhm.
since we started. And, but we're okay with it.
Small but
We're
mighty.
okay with it.
Yes, and a lot of it, the interesting part is with 32 Glen, we put the roof on. Now I'm writing a grant to fix the rest of it, and the paperwork's exactly the same as what it was when, Paul has to do the environmental work, and
It's the same. Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
nothing's changed on the building. So in fact, that was part of my grant. It's like, we're ready to mobilize. You've already approved this site for work. You already showed your flood maps, and we already have the engineer who spec'd it all out and looked at it also.
Yeah, economy of scale, sure.
Yeah, I
The more you
mean,
do, the more
if
you've
you
already done.
recall, Andrew was part of the hiring committee. Nobody came to the office and said, "Hey, this is how you execute an LBI 2 grant." They just said, "Hey, I think we have this thing. Gotta look in the file."
Transition's a little bumpy.
So we figured it out. Now that we know how to do it, it's obviously easier.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's been a great learning curve too for both of us, I think. And we both have a unique set of skills. Yesterday, Brad and I spent the day in a lead training class, so we are certified lead
So,
renovators.
Yeah, I saw that. That was neat.
So,
suited
and
up and
well, yeah, you got to suit up.
You're in a little brace. So
I
bet
didn't
that's
suit
good,
up
huh?
yesterday because I got my brace on. But it's those things that are going to keep the land bank sharp for the future.
All right. Any other questions? All right, so from the finance committee members, we'll take a vote. So I need a motion I'm gonna do this in two pieces. I'm gonna do the expanded budget and then the Paris budget, so that it's a double recommendation up to the board, so that there's two actions at the board level too. So I'll take a motion to approve the expanded budget.
Motion.
Second,
That's it. It's just you two right now.
okay, I guess I'll second that.
Yeah.
And all in favor? Aye, okay. And then the Paris budget, which everything rolls up into that. You can see all the numbers match up at the bottoms. So take a motion.
Motion.
And I'll second. So we'll recommend to the full board, both of the budgets for approval. I don't believe there's any old business. There's no new business, other business. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:09. Second. Second, and all in favor. Amen.
All right, and then now Suzanne, you'll open up our.
Okay. I'm calling to order the September 2025 meeting. No, that's last year. The October meeting. And first thing we'll do is what time is it?
9:09.
9:10.
9:10.
9:10.
And roll call. Jamie, he's absent. Brian Barker.
Here.
Andrew Cooper.
Here.
Bob Connolly.
Here.
Tamara DiMartino.
Here.
Suzanne Spellin here. Monica Zieski.
Here.
Kim Ash McPherson.
Present.
And also present are Bradley Lewis, our ED, Paul Donnelly, our project manager, and Michelle Marinello, our counsel. And sorry, forgot to mention Brian is here. And Seamus Donnelly is absent. So if everyone has read the meeting minutes from last time, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okey dokey. Financial report.
That's me again. All right. Careful for what you wish for, they say, right? You might get it.
You just might get it.
So, yep, Jessica gave us a management report. You'll see the blue line there. It's front and back actually this time, so that's kind of fun. I'm not. Okay. The large thing to note is that so far this year, we're at just under $100,000 in net income, which is a positive thing. I project we just got a $300,000 deposit into our account from the state, so that's going to hit the top line. So we're going to be inching closer to that projected. I think it was the projected expenditure total or the income for the year total is about $1 million, and that's going to be because of all the reimbursements from the state and investments into the properties we own. So that's how we're going to bridge that, is this quickly approaching completion of the 3 large projects that are going to be happening. So you'll see that month after month that we'll have some large numbers there, but it's not necessarily going to be turning into cash. It's going to turn into inventory, recognized revenue from a grant that turns into inventory on our balance sheet. So I'm going to move from the income statement unless somebody has a question. Then we get to our balance sheet. Obviously we have 3 accounts. The first account we haven't used in 2 years, but it still has $79 in it. Then we have our general checking account, which we're seeking reimbursement for a lot of funds that were in there. And we have our money market account, which is our savings, which largely some of that money that was in the savings account when this snapshot happened in September 30th was set aside to write checks for our LBI-2 expenditures that we had. And you'll see some of those as potential liabilities at the end of the packet. So I'm just looking quickly. Obviously, you'll see the property inventory 871 River Street is increasing because we're spending money on it. And so as we spend money on stuff, we swing a hammer, it's worth more money. We'll move past some of these. 834 River Street, same thing. We're about to write I think it's $150,000 plus or minus to Bolton Construction for getting us halfway finished. Like I said, they're putting hardwood floors in, then it's kitchen cabinets, and we'll be off to the races there. So you'll see those things increase as well. Total property inventory is $620,000. So that added to our bank accounts, you're going to have our $956,000 in current assets, and then total assets is 960 once you add in those tablets that we've had sitting aside. And it says software website, so it's saying our website's worth money, and we'll have to depreciate our website down over time.
That's because we spent money on it,
right?
Therefore,
it
has value. Okay,
right, but it has staying value.
Right.
You build a website, it's a couple $1,000s, and then all of a sudden, you have to do it again in 10 years, but you didn't consume it all. You might have consumed $200 worth of your value in each year until the end of the 10 years. It's the appropriate way to not recognize it all in 1 year, since we're an accrual basis organization. So if you go to accounts payable, you'll see $71,000, and that was what I was talking about with the money market account. We had money set aside in the money market account. That wasn't our savings to wait for the accounts payable, and so we moved that over to pay those bills. They just didn't hit by September 30th, so we're obviously 22 days later. We've already paid them, but that's just the way the accounting works, because this is as of September 30th. We have a credit card bill, $3,000. Again, I provide everybody with the reconciliation reports, which show each transaction. So that credit card bill's transaction should be reflected on the reconciliation report, which should give everybody a sort of an idea of what we spent money on this year or this month. Then we have some deposits, which are money that's not ours, but it's money because we haven't closed yet. They gave us the deposit, so we have $15,050 in deposits for unsold properties. So our total liabilities are $89,000 with a net position of $871,000 for our organization. So again, total liabilities in equity is $960,000. And if you want to see the AP aging summary, that shows you the money that we owe this month, which of course is all paid, but it's just at least you can see it, what we owe, different things like facade grants or fixing up 871 primarily is what I'm showing there. All those bills have been paid at this point. The statement of cash flows just sort of backs out our income statement and our current cash to show you exactly how our cash has changed and how our cash got to the place where it's at, where our bank accounts are $315,000. I believe that that's the way that works. I'm going to just double check it. Yeah, $315,469 on your balance sheet, total bank accounts, Matt, and how we got to $315 from last year, or whatever the statement starts. It's a net income start. So that's how we get there from the year beginning. And of course, 3 pages of reconciliation reports, and I'm open to any questions. It's actually 2 pages front and back, so it's 4 total pages of the 3 accounts that we use. We don't use the $79 Pioneer account, so I don't reconcile that. I mean, we reconcile it, but it has no transactions, so.
I just want to make a note that this is super, super transparent.
Yeah.
Most organizations and authorities don't put their reconciliation report on their monthly statements. So I just want to make sure that people understand how transparent we are being. Not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm just saying we are super transparent. And if anybody wants to go onto our website and look at our financials or come to a meeting, we are showing everything, right down to like the smallest thing.
It's available. We're just doing it through skill and grit. That's how we
No,
do
but
it.
in the world of today.
Instead of smokes and mirrors.
No, I think in the world of today, I think it's super important because people want to know, right? You
Yeah.
have to report all of this to the state anyway, and it all goes through an audit process, and we all do that. But sometimes that audit process comes out with a report. It doesn't necessarily give you the nuts and bolts of what went into that and what they reviewed. So by Brad doing this every month with us and with the public, essentially, we're giving you the nuts and bolts that lead up to the audit in the first part of the year.
Transparency is everything.
It is,
Everything.
absolutely.
It builds trust. And I think that's what we're starting to see with the contractors as well too, is that, we had to rebuild some trust and you guys have done that.
I know I had some experience with the previous land bank and I couldn't get any information out. And I know I'm still new on this piece of it. A lot of the information I'm getting out is like, wow, that's stuff that I couldn't even get out before. So I do appreciate doing all that. It is very transparent.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, our bookkeeper's great. I think before I started, we inherited a guy that was taking $1,000 a month out of it with an ACH, and the books weren't even done for 2023. So, Kim had asked me about 11 Winnie on the statement of cash flows, and it's because there was nobody doing the books. So when I started in 2024, 2023 at the beginning of the year wasn't done at all. And so I had to reconstruct it based on their bank statements and go to the bank and ask for this check, this check, this check. I just want to see the cash checks.
Right. It was confusing. I know that property was done. I'm like, why is there money still showing back and forth from Winnie to here now? It's
because the bookkeeper at that point wasn't actually engaging or communicating, or it was just difficult. I mean, because you're going to have a treasurer and either executive director, or in this case, it was a hired director. And then, of course, then you have the bookkeeper, and they all have to work together and communicate. So the process with our bookkeeper is every time I write a check, then I scan it in and then I put it into the portal on QuickBooks. So every expense, QuickBooks is like, it isn't I just throw it in there real quick because I want to. It has to be coded correctly and then match everything. And that's what the reconciliation report does. This is what you started with. This is the addition. The addition should be shown down here. And so every expense you see has its receipt attached to it in QuickBooks. So Monica can log in and click the link at the bottom of an expense to see the support to show that the check was written to this person. And for this, whatever the invoice might declare that it's nailing up siding or putting in a repair on a roof or whatever.
But we still do it old school too, and I sign every invoice.
Well, that's the actual writing the check part of it, but then you can see the check go out too. So a couple eyes on it.
Okay, anything else on the financial end? Okay, moving on to the executive director's report.
Yeah, I think me and Paul were going to sort of discuss where we are with the facade program. You have,
Sure, I have.
yeah, and I don't think I got that, but you can show people.
I think everybody has a copy. Those last 3 sheets that you all received.
It's this one, right?
Yeah.
With the one that says 871 River Street project budget is not the one we're working on. The one that says LBI 2 award is the top. But we wanted to show you also, just to brag about our transparency so far. If everybody recalls, 871, we took site control over that from the general contractor because of there was complaints and also a lot of failures for basic compliance stuff. And so since we took control, we've been GCing it, whereas the difference between 871 and 834 and 3340 is 3340 and 834 both have GC. Bolt Construction actually was the lowest bidder for both of them. And so his bills are, there's 3 items. There's the permit, there's, potentially like, I think we had asbestos testing done at 3340 to make
We
it,
did.
to check. They did like 20 something samples to make sure there's no asbestos in the building. So we have an expense for them. And then I think we had Johnson Electrical at 834. So it's very minimal, but 3 expenses. We're at 871. We're going to end up with probably 40 or 50 checks written. So on the back of 871, I've included all of the checks written to date to all the contractors for everybody. So that, and then I've hard-coded line items next to it so that you can refer on the 871 project budget, the amount of money we spent so far in each line item, and then the total expected cost at the top of it. And obviously, again, to toot our own horn intentionally, since we took site control, we're projecting this budget or this building to be $70,000 less to fix.
Right.
Because Paul and I are, like I said, through skill and grit, we're engaging every day.
And,
I have to
and
go down there at 12 o'clock today and work, because we have internet down there now. So 12 to 4, waiting for National Grid to turn on the gas so that we can have our furnace fired up. But, that's what a GC would typically
well,
do.
and the GC
Oh, they've
in a
missed
case
3
like
appointments
this,
so far.
they're
I
gonna
didn't reach out yet.
they're gonna make about 12%. So that 12% now, with Brad and I managing the entire project, comes back to the house. So 12% on obviously, 600,000. You're looking at quite a bit of money.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
So and 12 is an average, in this market. For
and when you're
GC.
talking dollars per square foot, I was at a historic preservation event and somebody was bragging that it was $300 a square foot to fix a building, and it was great. The cause is great.
Yeah.
Veterans, homeless veterans, it was great that they did it. But I'm sitting there saying, we're doing this for 150.
Yeah, about 150, 155 a square foot.
And
Well,
So
a lot
you
of it-
can't buy real estate for that.
No. I mean, I still remember some of the CDBG stuff that they had done a while ago,
Mhm.
and the cost of what that was. A lot of them, like on 6th Avenue with Tina, like, you remember that?
Mhm.
That was a severe loss, but I mean, it moves the mission,
Yeah.
right? And and it was an allowable thing, but.
So we're able to fix more buildings with the same money. And in this case, we're able to completely max out our grant and not use the land bank's reserves to fix this building. So I'm pretty proud of that. But yeah, so I've given you a project budget. I won't beat the dead horse here. But I did want to take time for Paul to be able to talk about where we are in facade program and what we're looking at. So that would be your thing that says LBI 2 award at the top.
So if you go down to the bottom section of this, just job by job, I'm not going to go through all the addresses, but you'll notice that we have several of these complete. It is the goal and the mission of our office to complete all of the facade program by the end of this month. And it is a realistic possibility.
Yeah, everybody.
That can happen. Everybody seems to be right in line and on time. The Reverend, I'm sure he's very pleased. The handicap ramp is being built.
Dirt pile everywhere.
And there's dirt. It's a mess right now, but the contractor is doing excellent work along with the other contractors that we were able to hire for these projects.
Mhm.
So I don't have really any concerns regarding facade. I have spoken to several homeowners who have their projects started or completed, and all have been extremely happy with the results so far. So we try to stay in touch as best we can.
Are we documenting like the completed projects, like pictures
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever?
Oh,
Okay.
sure.
I drove by last night.
Sure.
I'm sure right across the street from Brian's house on 2nd Avenue there. They changed the whole paint color of the house to blue. And I was just driving by because I went to the Lansingburg led landlord registry class or symposium, whatever you want to call it, event. And they're mixing concrete, putting in a brand new front stoop at 6:15 at night. I'm like, these guys are working hard. It's great.
So the 4 that are starting this week.
They're already, most of them started, right?
Yeah,
So they'll be completed.
there's only
in the next
2 that haven't been started, but a few have been soft washed and just gotten ready, prepped to go. If you'll notice, the totals for the facade program, we're at $182,000.
Sadly, you have to flip the page.
You have to
For
flip
one
it.
line.
For one line, yes. Yes, I know. I'm trying to give you so much information. I have to do front and backs on everything.
Small margins.
Um,
Yeah, I was gonna say, you can have sprinkles.
And, initially, these projects came to a sum total of probably just over 220, but we were able to get pricing in and do things the right way, so we could come right in at that 180 figure. So we're at 182. So we're very proud of that work. If you want to move on, we can talk about 871 River Street.
Honestly, I think that,
Is that moot?
I mean, I don't, up to you guys if you want questions, but I don't think it's necessary.
If you have questions on any of it, I mean, that's looking like a completion. I'm hoping by December 15. I'm a little optimistic. Brad probably thinks more like January 15, but we're pushing as hard as we can to get the thing
Everything's looking
completed.
good, yeah.
Yeah, but
We have all our rough-in inspections done. The city's
yeah,
been down there.
the rough-ins are done
happy.
for the plumbing, all the framing. We got our framing inspection.
Yeah.
We're gonna have insulation being put in within the next week, and we'll be sheetrocking walls
Yeah.
the
Which
week
is
following.
really the big thing is, I mean, they have the tap application in for the sprinkler line. And the city's ready to move ahead. I mean, we just tapped a new sewer line. And so once we tap the new sprinkler line, the sprinkler company says, we're good. We can build around all this. We can start the installation. I don't think they're gonna go in the exterior walls with the sprinkler system.
No.
But we just want the sprinkler system and the installation guy to communicate and
To make it easier for each other.
is
No.
code already approved a sprinkler permit? Or they
Yes.
have it or?
No, it's approved.
It's approved.
It's approved.
So, as opposed to 791 where there was no sprinkler permit, but the whole building was done and we had to recreate the whole design. It was,
Right.
we had fun, Ken. You missed it all.
Damn it.
Sheetrock party.
Project that just kept giving.
Yeah.
And giving and
Take
giving.
We are awaiting final color choices for the exterior of the building
From our siding committee.
from our siding committee. So if you
Because
guys
they
can
want to
give us,
start like next week.
we
start paying next week.
we want to paint next week.
I think we figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Could you,
Is it rosewood or something?
I don't know what the color name is.
So
The
which
second
one
one.
is
B.
it? Is it the darker?
Yeah.
So my question to that is the
Oh, boy.
trim, what is the trim?
Yeah, amen to
Let
that.
the siding committee.
No, but they're,
Not white.
So you
no,
want
not,
purple?
not
No,
white, but
no.
there was,
there's white accents.
It might change. Let the committee,
But
let's,
you
for the
guys-
sake,
you
of
guys
everybody's
choose.
time, let the
Yeah,
committee. Just give us the answer. The siding
That's it.
painter will come in and
Because
paint it.
we sincerely want to paint this next week.
Okay.
So-
all right, we'll take 3 minutes when we're done here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wrap it up.
An ad hoc committee.
Okay, moving on to the A&D committee recommendations.
Mm-hmm. So Brian, you have those resolutions, right?
I do.
So again, there was a list of vacant lots that were on, or potentially on the foreclosure list that we discussed with, in a meeting, me, Jamie, and Seamus sat down and talked. This all has to be approved by HCR and by the administration. They obviously have to sell us the lots. If they don't sell them, we don't move forward. But we have to have our ducks in a row ahead of time to give them the options to pick the lots they want to put the cross mod buildings on. Anyone that could possibly qualify is what the A&D committee approved moving forward to allow HCR and the administration to be the gatekeepers of where we put them versus us to say we shouldn't do it because we don't like the way it looks or something like that. So that's sort of the recommendation. I don't think I listed the lots on here. Brian, they're on the resolution. Would you mind reading them off?
Thank you.
156th Avenue,
Which is the Haskell School, I should say.
50 Tyler Street, 45 Stowe Ave, 1037 6th Ave, 1035 6th Ave, 390 4th Street.
And so the other lots that were opportunities have already been approved by the board. So these are the only ones that could be a possibility.
So are those all lots or they?
They're all
lots?
vacant lots.
Vacant
All
lots.
The cross mod program is to build a house,
Yep.
1,500 square foot house. And
On
then,
these parcels.
well, no, in a warehouse and drive it over on a trailer, pull the tires off and build a foundation underneath it.
The modulars, or they're not the tiny houses, they're the modulars?
No, these
Yeah,
are
1,500
not, these
square
are not
feet.
tiny houses.
They're
no.
not
And
tiny.
it might be,
1,500 square
there might be two, but the unique part about it is in the governor signing this law that was passed, that it's not going to be considered a mobile home because it's going to have a permanent foundation.
Correct.
So there's a lot we would do to do the cross mod. And I think it'd be great for the city, you know, if we can get $3 million in housing built, $40,000 a year in taxes to the coffers for the city on lots that already have the sewer and water hooked up.
Can I just ask on the Haskell, how many you think you could put there?
4 or 5.
Really?
I think it's 175 feet wide
Yeah,
by 120 deep.
yeah.
And if you had, say, 37, 30, you could get possibly 5. But that's going to be HCR and the administration and whoever, you know,
Right.
I just want to for me personally, I'd rather be as open as possible and be a conduit to whatever everybody's goals are and let everybody, you know, build what we can, give people owner occupied opportunities. Obviously, these people are type of people that have to get a good enough credit score so they can get approved for a loan. So it's not
Sure.
like you're introducing somebody that, you know, isn't responsible to a neighborhood. So,
And we don't think that there's any issues with any of our zoning code.
oh no, our zoning code seems to be a lot more relaxed now that they changed it in 2022, I think.
22.
I just want
Yeah.
to make sure, because
I mean, I had
a lot of
initial-
commentary around
Yeah.
mobile.
Yeah. And I had some initial calls with Carlo about that. And he's like, well, if you're just doing R1, your zone everywhere in the city can build an R1.
As long as it's on a foundation.
Right.
But these,
Yeah.
these aren't mobile homes, they're mods.
Right. So
Yeah,
they're
so they're
built like
completely-
mobile homes and driven over and then
Yeah.
taken.
That's why they
and
call them
use,
cross mods.
Right.
they use a steel frame as like the support structure. It's engineered that the steel frame becomes part of the support structure on the foundation.
I just want to be crystal clear so that when it does go in front of planning,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a change of 3-family or the Haskell School from a commercial to a residential, right? Because those are gonna have to go through zoning, most likely, to be changed. So.
Probably.
I
Even
just wanna make
for a
sure that
downgrade,
zoning and
probably.
Planning
Probably.
understand that
Yeah.
the new zoning code allows for all of this as well,
Yeah.
in addition to what the governor is putting forward as an initiative.
And that's sort of where I'm just, hey, I'll be flexible if this is what people want to do, you know.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
right, but
Yeah.
I just know in prior approvals, not through anything through us, right, but just in general,
Sure.
like, there's been some misunderstanding of the new zoning code and what is allowable and what's not allowed.
Yes, that is very true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we just need to make sure we're crystal clear, and that's why we have an attorney.
Yeah. And that's why we increased their budget,
Have
so
fun.
she can come show up at the meetings.
Okay, the resolution to pursue 865 River Street.
Nope, we have to
Do the first.
we have to
Oh, I'm
see if
sorry,
anybody
yeah.
would like to make a motion for the,
Is there a
Make a-
motion for the
I
resolution?
Second. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Moving on to the resolution to pursue 865 River Street.
so that is, at this point, it was brought to my attention by the homeowner that he owns the building at 850 River Street. He owns it's a big, large commercial building, and he just gave me a tour of the building. It's been an issue with community members, like Gene Pryor brought me through there. So kids are walking through there, going in between the building into the fence, and then there's a knockdown building next door with the hole in the ground. And she's like, kids are just going to play over there.
Mhm.
So it's a blight, it's a Red X building, and I'm not sure the amount of money that the gentleman wants for it. He did mention that he would be really tickled at $30,000, and I said to myself, well, if we're really tickled at 30,000, how low can we go? Because we don't want to unjustly enrich people who have sit on vacant property and been. And I mean, I don't think he's a bad person, but I think that building is bad for the neighborhood. It's 2 buildings down from 871 River Street, and
100%.
yeah, and so before I move forward, I just want to make sure that's something you guys want me to pursue. Of course, the final vote and final dollar amount has to come through, you guys, but at least it tells you where he's at, and you're welcome to tell me what you think.
It's the factory building?
No, that's his
No.
offices.
Oh,
Across the street is HCC5.
oh, okay.
So that's been a vacant building for as long as I've been involved with the land bank, so going back to like 2013. And actually, there was one adjacent to it that I think the city foreclosed on.
Yep.
And was able to get sold, I believe.
And then it got knocked down, yeah.
Yes, so,
Mhm.
so this has been a long-standing vacant property and an eyesore.
Yeah. I think the owner was looking into what it would look like if he got it appraised, and then he could write off the complete value of the appraisal by donating to a 501c3. And I said, that sounds like a great
That
idea.
sounds like a fabulous idea.
And then he was going to look into if he paid less than the appraised value, could he write off the difference? And I was like, this is all up to you. You know, you should do that work. My board has to tell me if they want me to continue talking with them.
I make a motion to approve the resolution to pursue 865 River Street.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, resolution passes. Do we have any old business?
It's our paint color.
Yeah, we'll figure that one out.
What color are the tablecloth at the new office? Let's talk for
Let's
30
talk about
hours.
those doorknobs.
And what about curtains?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, new business. We have a resolution approving the 2026 budget and accepting submission of budgets for 2026 through 2030.
It's actually 2029, just to clarify.
So we should also do these in two pieces.
Sure.
Chunks, yeah.
I think the resolution that was done last year was a combined to approve and whatever, but so I only have one resolution drafted.
Well, you can certainly draft a new resolution, but I would separate it into two pieces.
Okay.
If that's okay with the attorney.
So the first one is to approve the 2026 budget. And then the second one would be the 2029 to 30 budget.
To certify the parish report.
I make a motion to approve the expanded 2026 Troy Land Bank.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. So.
I'll make a motion to approve I forget whatever it's called, the Paris, okay,
certify the Paris
to
report.
certify the Paris report. Yeah, there you go.
2026.
That.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That resolution passes.
I think that Michelle had some other business.
Yeah, just I have a general, kind of the various real estate closings or projects, just a general update for what we're working on. So 3236 Ave, we're targeting a closing on that for next week. The 332 9th that we're working with Trip on, that we have their purchase agreement and are taking a look at that. 785 River Street, we're targeting a closing for next week on that. 3209 and 3211 7th, we're just waiting for a title report from purchaser. 3229 6th is closed, obviously 17 Park is closed, and we are also working with Brad on a template lease agreement that we can use for those residential units going forward.
I think she already gave me the lease to send out.
That's what she said.
Yep.
So that's just kind of our work stream, so we should have a couple closings in the next week.
Oh, that's great.
That's great.
Okay, any other business? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Well, before we close, I just want to talk about the next meeting is November 19th. I was asked to attend a Senate hearing about housing on that exact date and time. So either there's a sneaking suspicion in me that there might not be a lot to do for board meeting stuff next time around. And so I would like to go to the Senate hearing.
Can I go to the
The state Senate,
Yeah,
state
please.
senators, they're doing a
So if
panel.
you don't, I mean, this is my personal opinion,
Yeah.
if you don't feel that there's anything pressing, you can always call a meeting we can always say we're gonna.
A special.
We're gonna skip the November meeting and then we'll reconvene in December, but if there's something that's pressing, give the public notice, make sure we can all get it on our calendar, you have a quorum, and then you can just call a meeting.
Yeah, and so if that's the case, which I would greatly appreciate, that would be a December 17th meeting. Would be the next meeting instead of November 19th.
That actually works better for me.
So that Monday, the 17th?
No, Wednesday, the 17th of December.
Oh, I'm in the wrong month.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, no, that's actually better for me too.
Yeah.
And how much notice do we need, public notice?
If we do a
can't?
special?
No, if we cancel. Or are we canceling for sure?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, definitely
Brad wants to go to
canceling.
the meeting.
So
Yeah,
we
why
can,
not?
I mean, Brad can put an update on the
On the calendar.
on the calendar, on the website, on the social media. And I
Yeah.
would say why.
Yeah.
I would say what?
I mean, every month at the beginning of the month on our Facebook, on the window of our office, I email the city clerk and the Times Union, Troy Record. I notified them of what our meetings are this month and if there are any changes. And even yesterday, I mentioned like we did a change meeting because when it changes, people want to know the cadence. Obviously, Reverend Burke was here earlier. He knew the meeting had changed. So, it's just good to over communicate.
Okay, we had a motion and a second, but we didn't vote yet. So all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We're adjourned.